Hello, dreamer of the deep. Tonight, we sail not for gold or glory, but for the most precious treasure of all, a good night's sleep. Forget cannonballs and cursed maps. This is the story of snoring swashbucklers, hammock-hugging hooligans, and the mysterious art of pirate bedtime. You'll meet captains who snored louder than thunder, parrots who sang lullabies off-key, and a crew so sleepy they once mistook a sea monster for a mattress. So tuck yourself in, tighten your imaginary eye patch, and prepare to drift off on a wave of giggles and yawns. Because when the moon rises over the mast and the stars twinkle like spilled doubloons, even the fiercest pirate knows bedtime is serious business. And before you sail off to dreamland, don't forget to like and subscribe, or the ghost of Captain Yawnbeard might snore in your ear forever. Drop anchor in the comments and let me know where you be watching them from. Whether it is a cozy bed in Barbados or a hammock in Hackney. Now close your eyes, matey. The snoring buccaneers await as the moon hung lazily over the Caribbean sky and the waves whispered lullabies to the hull. The snoring buccaneers prepared for their nightly tradition, the sacred midnight rum ritual. It was less of a ceremony and more of a chaotic bedtime routine involving questionable beverages, off-key singing, and the occasional airborne pillow. The rum that wasn't really rum. Contrary to popular belief, pirates didn't always drink rum before bed. Sometimes it was coconut water, disguised as rum to avoid mutiny. Captain Yawnbeard, ever the sleep enthusiast, insisted on a special blend called snore juice, a mix of warm molasses, nutmeg, and something that may have been squid ink. It was said to induce dreams so vivid, one pirate woke up, convinced he was married to a jellyfish. The pillow fight treaty of Port Royal won. Fateful night in Port Royal. Two rival pirate crews, the snoring buccaneers and the yawning marauders, accidentally booked the same inn. Tensions rose. Eye patches were adjusted. Parrots squawked threats. But instead of drawing swords, they drew pillows. Feathers flew like cannon smoke. The innkeeper wept. A goat was somehow involved. And by dawn, the pirates had signed a peace treaty written entirely in pillow fluff. From that day forward, pillow fights became the official method of resolving pirate disputes, unless someone cheated by stuffing their pillow with cannonballs. The sleepy dance of the drowsy deckhands. Before bed, the crew performed a ritual dance known as the sleepy shuffle. It involved slow stomping, exaggerated yawning, and a final spin that usually ended with someone falling into a barrel. Legend says the dance was invented by a pirate who mistook a jellyfish for a slipper and tried to moonwalk away from it. Parrot lullabies and the curse of squawk. Every pirate had a parrot, and every parrot had a bedtime song. Unfortunately, parrots are notoriously bad singers. One bird, named Sir Screechington, sang lullabies that sounded like a blender full of forks. The crew tried earplugs made of sea sponge, but they only made things worse. Eventually, Sir Screechington was promoted to alarm clock, and his lullabies were banned under the Squawk Act of 1702. Captain Yawnbeard's bedtime hat. To signal bedtime, Captain Yawnbeard wore a special hat shaped like a crescent moon. It was covered in glitter, smelled faintly of lavender, and had a tiny bell that jingled when he nodded off. The crew respected the hat deeply, mostly because it distracted seagulls from stealing their socks. Long ago, when the ocean was full of mystery, And the only thing louder than cannon fire was a pirate's snore. There sailed a crew known not for their swordplay or treasure hunting skills, but for their legendary ability to fall asleep anywhere, anytime, and often mid-sentence. These were the snoring buccaneers. Their ship, the drowsy Barnacle, was less a vessel of war and more a floating nap zone. The sails were stitched from old bed sheets. The crow's nest had a feather pillow, and the figurehead was carved in the shape of a yawning walrus. It was said that even the barnacles clinging to the hull took regular naps. But the true secret to their slumbering success: hammocks. The pirate hammock, a swinging miracle of sleep. Pirates didn't sleep in beds. Beds were for landlubbers, royalty, and people who didn't mind rolling onto the floor during a storm. Pirates preferred hammocks, those swaying slings of fabric suspended between beams, gently rocking with the rhythm of the sea. Of course, not all pirates mastered the art of hammock entry. Many a sailor attempted a dramatic leap into their hammock, only to be flung across the cabin like a sleepy cannonball. One pirate, nicknamed Flip-Flop Freddy, was known for launching himself into his hammock so violently that he once landed in the Captain S. stew pot. The hiccup epidemic of '87. Legend tells of a night when the entire crew developed hiccups after a particularly spicy dinner of ghost pepper stew. The hiccups echoed through the ship like Morse code, keeping everyone awake. Captain Yawnbeard, in a moment of brilliance or delirium, ordered the crew to sleep upside down to confuse the hiccups. It didn't work, but it did lead to the invention of the upside-down hammock nap, a technique still used by confused pirates today. The rat pillow debate. Pirates often shared their sleeping quarters with rats. Some saw them as pests. Others saw them as potential pillows. A heated debate once broke out between two crewmates, one who trained his rat to curl up under his neck, and another who insisted rats were better foot warmers. The argument ended when the rat in question chose to sleep in the rum barrel, becoming the ship's unofficial mascot, Sir Nibbles the Sleepy. Snore wars. The loudest pirate wins. Each night, the crew held an informal competition to see who could snore the loudest. The winner was crowned Captain of the Night and given the honor of waking everyone up with a trumpet made from a conch shell. One pirate, Snorin' Sam, snored so loudly that nearby ships mistook it for whale mating calls and changed course. It was a chilly night on the high seas, and the crew of the drowsy Barnacle was in crisis, not because of enemy ships or sea monsters. No, this was far worse. They were out of socks. The great sock shortage of 1692 began innocently enough. One by one, pirates started waking up with cold toes and suspiciously empty boots. At first they blamed the rats, then the parrot, then each other. But the truth was far more sinister. The laundry line had snapped during a storm, and every sock had been flung into the sea like tiny woolen jellyfish. Sockless and sleepless, without their beloved bedtime socks, the crew grew restless. Toasty Tom, known for wearing 3 pairs at once, began sleepwalking in search of warmth. Peg-leg Polly tried stuffing her peg with sea sponge, but it only made her bounce. Captain Yawnbeard wore gloves on his feet and declared it innovative footwear, though he kept tripping over his own toes. The sock substitute trials. Desperate for comfort, the pirates experimented with replacements: biscuits, crumbly, itchy, and prone to attracting rats. Octopus tentacles, surprisingly warm but too squishy. Parrot feathers, effective, but the parrots protested loudly. Tiny hammocks, stylish, but hard to walk in. Eventually, Barnacle Bill fashioned socks out of old maps. His feet smelled like treasure for weeks. The cold toe. Mutiny one frosty morning. The crew staged a mutiny. Not for gold, not for rum, but for socks. They stormed the captain's quarters, demanding wool. Captain Yawnbeard, caught mid-nap, offered a compromise. He'd knit socks for everyone using his beard hair. The crew agreed. The socks were itchy, smelled faintly of lavender, and were considered a fashion statement in Tortuga for years. The socksmith of the sea. To prevent future shortages, the crew appointed Needle Ned, a pirate with a talent for sewing and a mysterious past involving a tailor shop and a runaway llama. Ned created socks so soft they were rumored to lull even the crankiest pirate into a nap. His masterpiece? A pair of socks that played lullabies when rubbed together. They were stolen by a seagull and never seen again. As the moonlight danced across the deck of the drowsy Barnacle, the crew settled into their hammocks with the grace of sleepy walruses. But they weren't alone. No pirate ever truly slept solo, not with the ship's unofficial co-captains. The rats. Yes, rats. Furry, fearless, and surprisingly affectionate. These weren't your average scurvy vermin. These were bed rats, a special breed of shipboard snuggle buddies who knew the difference between a biscuit and a boot and could find the warmest corner of a hammock faster than a pirate could say, yo ho ho. The great rat pillow. Debate, revisited it all, began with one-eyed Percy, who claimed his rat, Sir Nibbles, made a better pillow than any feather-stuffed sack. He molds to me, neck like mashed potatoes, Percy bragged. Others disagreed. Toothless Tina preferred her rat, Cheddar, as a foot warmer. The debate escalated into a full-blown rat snuggle-off, judged by the ship's parrot, who was bribed with crackers and questionable compliments. Rat training, the sleepy circus. Some pirates trained their rats to perform bedtime tricks. Snorin' Sam taught his rat to tuck him in by dragging a tiny blanket over his belly. Barnacle Bill had a rat that could hum sea shanties, though it mostly sounded like sneezing. One ambitious pirate tried to teach his rat to read bedtime stories, but the rat ate the book and fell asleep on the page. The cheese conundrum. Rats, of course, loved cheese. Pirates, however, had a complicated relationship with it. A wheel of cheese was considered sacred bedtime currency. It could be traded for extra hammock space, a lullaby from the parrot, or a 5-minute cuddle with Captain Yawnbeard's prized pillow. One night, a rat uprising occurred when the cheese supply ran dry. The crew was forced to offer their socks as tribute. The rats accepted. The pirates slept barefoot. Peace was restored. The rat nest incident. One stormy evening, the rats built a communal nest in the captain's hat. When he put it on, he was immediately declared king of the rats and carried around the ship in a hammock throne. He ruled for 3 hours, issued a decree banning loud snoring, and then fell asleep mid-sentence. The rats tucked him in and returned to their cheese, rat fashion, and pirate pajamas. Some pirates dressed their rats in tiny pajamas. Others gave them hats. One rat wore a monocle and was referred to as Professor Whiskers. He was rumored to be smarter than half the crew and once solved a treasure map riddle by chewing off the incorrect directions. There are tales of pirates who fought off sea monsters discovered hidden treasure, and outwitted entire navies. But none are quite as legendary or as drowsy as the story of Captain Yawnbeard's heroic nap. It was a stormy afternoon aboard the drowsy barnacle. The sky growled like a hungry walrus. The waves tossed the ship like a coconut in a blender, and the crew was in full panic mode. Cannonballs rolled across the deck. Parrots clung to hammocks for dear life. One pirate tried to use a mop as a flotation device and was promptly scolded by the mop. And where was Captain Yawnbeard? Snoring in his quarters. Loudly, rhythmically, heroically, the nap heard round the ocean. Captain Yawnbeard had fallen asleep mid-toast, holding a mug of warm molasses and muttering something about dreaming of marshmallow clouds. As the storm raged, his snoring grew louder, so loud, in fact, that it began to vibrate the ship's timbers. At first, the crew thought it was the end, but then something miraculous happened. The snore that calmed the sea. Legend says Yawnbeard's snore was so deep and soothing, it lulled the storm into a nap of its own. The clouds yawned, the waves sighed, even the thunder paused to tuck itself in. Within minutes, the sea was as calm as a sleepy kitten in a hammock. The crew stared in awe. Barnacle Bill wept softly into his beard. Toothless Tina composed a sea shanty titled "The Snore That Saved Us." The parrot, who had been clinging to the mast upside down, whispered, "Respect the nap parade." When Captain Yawnbeard finally awoke, still holding his mug, now filled with rainwater, the crew threw him a parade. They marched around the deck in their pajamas, waving socks like flags and singing lullabies in his honor. He was crowned Nap Hero of the Seven Seas and given a golden pillow embroidered with the words, "Do not disturb unless on fire." The official nap protocol. From that day forward, the crew adopted a strict nap protocol. Emergency naps were encouraged during storms, arguments, and long speeches. Snore volume was measured nightly. Loud snorers received extra biscuits. Captain Yawnbeard's bedtime was sacred. Anyone who interrupted it was sentenced to mop duty with a toothbrush. As the moon stretched its sleepy arms across the sky, and the waves whispered bedtime secrets to the hull, the snoring buccaneers faced a dilemma that had plagued pirates for centuries. Their beds were crunchy. Yes, crunchy. You see, hammocks were fine for swinging naps and dramatic snoozes, but when it came to true softness, the kind that makes you sigh like a walrus in a bubble bath, pirates were tragically under-equipped, and so began the legendary quest for softness, the seashell mattress experiment. It all started with Toothless Tina, who declared one morning, "I dreamt of clouds, but woke up on gravel, inspired by a dream involving a pillow made of jellyfish, not recommended." She began collecting seashells to build a mattress. The result? A bed that looked beautiful, sounded like a rain stick, and felt like sleeping on a crab's attitude. Her back cracked like a treasure map. The experiment was discontinued. The jellyfish pillow incident. Next came Squiddy Sid, who believed jellyfish were nature's marshmallows. He bravely stuffed his hammock with jellyfish, hoping for a squishy slumber. Unfortunately, jellyfish are less marshmallow and more electric spaghetti. Sid woke up glowing and briefly spoke fluent dolphin. The crew applauded his bravery and banned jellyfish from bedtime forever. The stuffed kraken craze. In search of softness, the crew turned to plush toys. Captain Yawnbeard introduced the stuffed kraken, a cuddly monstrosity with 8 arms and a sleepy smile. Pirates hugged it, snuggled it, and occasionally used it as a hat. One pirate claimed it whispered bedtime stories in ancient squid language. No one questioned it. Sock-stuffed hammocks, still haunted by the great sock shortage, Barnacle Bill began stuffing his hammock with spare socks. The result was lumpy, but warm. He called it the sock nest. Others followed suit, creating hammocks that smelled like feet, but felt like hugs. The rats approved. Soap bubble beds. Bubble-eyed Barry tried sleeping on a bed of soap bubbles. It worked for 3 seconds before he sank into the barrel and emerged squeaky clean. He was declared most moist pirate and given a towel as a trophy. The Softness Council. Eventually, the crew formed the Softness Council, a group dedicated to improving pirate sleep quality. They tested materials, held bedtime focus groups, and once hosted a nap expo featuring booths like blankets that smell like biscuits and pillows that purr. The winning invention, a hammock lined with parrot feathers and sea sponge, dubbed the Snuggle Sling, as the stars blinked like sleepy fireflies and the sea hummed its nightly lullaby. The snoring buccaneers turned to their most beloved bedtime companions. Not swords, not maps, not mugs of molasses, but plush toys. Yes, pirates had plushies, and they were fierce about them. The rise of the Teddy Kraken. It all began with Captain Yawnbeard, who once returned from a raid not with gold, but with a squishy, tentacled creature made of velvet and stuffing. He named it Sir Snuggle Kraken, stitched a tiny pirate hat onto its head, and declared it his emotional support sea monster. Sir Snuggle Kraken became a legend. He attended captain's meetings, wore seasonal outfits, including a tiny raincoat, and once negotiated peace between 2 feuding parrots by being adorably squishy. Other notable plushies, the crew quickly followed suit, each pirate adopting a bedtime plush with questionable origins and even more questionable names. Barnacle Bill had a plush cannonball named Boom Boom, which he kissed goodnight and occasionally used as a pillow. Toothless, Tina snuggled a stuffed jellyfish called Squishums, who glowed in the dark and smelled faintly of pickles. Groggy Greg slept with a plush anchor named Snorkor, which was heavy, impractical, and deeply loved. Even the rats got plushies, tiny stuffed cheese wedges with embroidered faces. One rat named his plush Sir Cheddarface and refused to sleep without it. The plushie customization craze. Soon, plushie fashion took over the ship. Pirates sewed tiny eye patches, miniature boots, and even plush parrots for their plushies. There was a brief scandal when Melodious Mike the parrot tried to date a plush version of himself. It ended in squawks and therapy. The ship's tailor, Needle Ned, opened a boutique called Snuggle and Plunder, offering custom plush accessories like sleepy swords and nap sashes. Business boomed. The rats invested. The parrot became the brand ambassador. The Plushie Protection Pact. To ensure plushie safety, the crew signed a pact. No plushie shall be tossed, soaked, or used in pillow fights. Violators were sentenced to bedtime without biscuits and had to listen to Sir Screechington S. lullabies on loop. The Plushie Parade. Once a month, the crew held a plushie parade, marching around the deck in pajamas, holding their plushies high, and singing the official bedtime anthem. Snuggle me gently, O Kraken of fluff. Your tentacles soothe me when dreams get rough. It was off-key. It was heartfelt. It was deeply confusing to passing ships as the sun peeked over the horizon like a shy jelly bean and the sea stretched its sleepy waves. the snoring buccaneers faced their greatest daily challenge, waking up. Pirates, as it turns out, are not morning people, or morning parrots, or morning rats. The only creature aboard the drowsy barnacle who enjoyed sunrise was a rooster named Sir Cluckles, and he was deeply unpopular. Sir Cluckles, the feathered alarm clock. Sir Cluckles was gifted to Captain Yawnbeard by a mysterious merchant who claimed the rooster could fork you wake the dead. He wasn't wrong. Cluckles crowed with such intensity that nearby islands filed noise complaints. His morning routine included standing on the crow's nest, flapping dramatically, screaming like a kettle possessed by caffeine. The crew tried everything to silence him. Earplugs made of sea sponge, lullabies, even bribery with corn biscuits. Nothing worked. Cluckles was relentless. He once crowed so loudly that a pirate mistook it for a cannon blast and dove into a barrel of molasses. The rope tangle tragedy, getting out of hammocks, was another issue. Pirates often woke up tangled in ropes, blankets, and occasionally each other. One morning, Barnacle Bill emerged from his hammock, wearing 3 belts, a mop, and a confused rat named Sir Nibbles. He declared it fashion and went back to sleep. To solve the problem, the crew invented the rope slide wake-up system, a pulley that gently lowered pirates from their hammocks onto a pile of soft socks. It worked beautifully until the socks were stolen by rats and replaced with cannonballs. That day was known as the Great Bruise Awakening. Morning hygiene. Optional, regrettable. Pirates weren't big on morning hygiene. The official routine included splashing face with seawater, or rum if available, brushing teeth with a toothbrush made from parrot feathers, arguing about who smelled the worst. Captain Yawnbeard insisted on a morning spritz of lavender mist, which he called battle fog. It confused seagulls and made him smell like a sleepy garden. Breakfast battles. Breakfast was chaotic. The cook, Krusty Carl, believed in surprise meals, which meant you never knew if you were getting porridge or pickled eel. One morning, he served pancakes shaped like pirate hats. They were delicious, but caused a brief identity crisis when Toothless Tina tried to wear hers. The official wake-up anthem. To ease the pain of mornings, the crew composed a wake-up song, Rise and shine, ye sleepy swine. The sun is up, the sea is fine. Grab your boots and stretch your spine, or Cluckles'll crow till 9:30. It was sung off-key, accompanied by spoons and yawns, and occasionally interrupted by snoring. As the sun climbed lazily into the sky and the salty breeze tickled the sails, the snoring buccaneers faced a challenge more fearsome than cannon fire, more dreaded than sea monsters, and more controversial than pineapple on hardtack. Bath time. Pirates, as a rule, were not fond of bathing. They preferred their natural musk, a blend of sea air, sock stew, and mystery. But every now and then, Captain Yawnbeard would declare a mandatory bath day, and chaos would ensue. The Great Sponge Duel. It began with a simple announcement. All pirates must bathe before bedtime or sleep in the bilge. The crew groaned. Parrots fainted. Rats packed tiny suitcases. Then came the Sponge Duel, a dramatic showdown between Toothless Tina and Barnacle Bill, who disagreed on the proper way to scrub a peg leg. They met at dawn, armed with oversized sea sponges and buckets of lukewarm water. The duel lasted 3 hours, involved interpretive dance, and ended when Tina slipped on a soap bar and declared herself emotionally clean. Soap shortages and sudsy substitutes. Soap was rare aboard the drowsy Barnacle. When supplies ran low, pirates got creative. Squid ink, cleansing, but left everyone looking like haunted librarians. Crushed biscuits, exfoliating, but attracted seagulls. Molasses, sticky, sweet, and deeply regrettable. One pirate tried using barnacles as loofahs. He now has a permanent limp and a fan club of confused crabs. The parrot protest. Parrots hated bath time. They squawked, flapped, and organized a protest called Feathers for Freedom. Their demands included no bubble hats, no lavender mist, no singing rub-a-dub-dub in pirate harmony. Captain Yawnbeard negotiated peace by offering the parrots tiny towels and a spa day in the Crow S nest. They accepted. The rats, jealous, staged a sit-in inside the soap barrel. The bathtub of Destiny legend tells of a golden bathtub hidden in the captain's quarters, filled with warm seawater and scented with mythical sea herbs. Only the bravest pirates were allowed to bathe in it. Those who had won the Cleanliness Cup, a contest judged by sparkle, scent, and ability to whistle while scrubbing. Groggy Greg won once. He emerged smelling like mint and confusion. The crew didn't recognize him and briefly mistook him for a visiting nobleman. The sleepy aftermath. After bath time, the ship was unusually quiet. Pirates lounged in hammocks, wrapped in fluffy towels, sipping warm molasses and sighing like pampered walruses. Even Sir Cluckles the rooster took a bubble bath and sang lullabies in falsetto as the moon tiptoed across the sky and the stars blinked like sleepy fireflies. The snoring buccaneers discovered a curious phenomenon. Some pirates dreamed of treasure and then found it. It all began with sleepy-eyed Sal, a pirate so committed to napping that he once slept through a sword fight, a sea shanty contest, and a parrot wedding. One night, Sal mumbled in his sleep, "X marks the jelly bean," and the next morning, he wandered off in his pajamas and dug up a chest filled with glitter, socks, and one very confused crab. The dream map craze. Inspired by Sal's sleepy success, the crew began recording their dreams. They kept a dream log, a soggy notebook filled with scribbles like island shaped like a biscuit, treasure buried under a snoring turtle, map tattooed on a dolphin's belly. Captain Yawnbeard declared that any dream containing at least one X, one coconut, and a vague sense of direction qualified as a dream map. The crew took it seriously. One pirate even slept with a compass under his pillow, hoping for magnetic dreams. Sleepwalking scouts. Some pirates developed a talent for sleepwalking straight into adventure. Groggy Greg once wandered off the ship, walked across a sandbar, and woke up hugging a treasure chest. Toothless, Tina sleep climbed the mast and woke up with a seagull nest on her head and 3 gold doubloons in her pocket. To keep sleepwalkers safe, the crew installed dream rails, soft ropes that guided wandering pirates back to their hammocks. The rats served as night guards, wearing tiny helmets and gently nudging sleepwalkers away from the edge. The dream interpreter. The ship's official dream interpreter was Professor Whiskers, a rat with a monocle and a mysterious past. He'd listen to pirate dreams, sniff thoughtfully, and then squeak once for treasure, twice for danger, and 3 times for "you just dreamed about cheese again." His accuracy was questionable, but his confidence was unmatched. The night of the glowing map. One magical evening, The stars aligned in the shape of a spoon, and Barnacle Bill dreamed of a glowing map that led to a cave filled with pillows. The crew followed his sleepy directions, sailing in zigzags and singing lullabies to the wind. They found the cave. It was real. It was filled with pillows, and one of them whispered bedtime stories when squeezed. The crew declared it the nap vault of Neptune and took turns napping inside. Even the parrots approved. As the stars blinked sleepily above the waves and the moon yawned its silver glow across the deck, the snoring buccaneers prepared for their most musical bedtime tradition, the candlelight lullaby hour. It was a nightly ritual filled with soft singing, dramatic snoring, and candles that had seen more wax than a narwhal's mustache. The candlelight lullaby hour. Each night, the crew gathered in their hammocks, lit stubby candles, some scented like old biscuits, and sang lullabies passed down through generations of sleepy sailors. The songs were slow, soothing, and occasionally interrupted by hiccups or parrot squawks. One popular tune, Rock Me Like a Rowboat, was known to lull even the rowdiest pirate into a puddle of drool. Sea shanty snore-offs, but not all bedtime music was gentle. Oh no. Some nights, the crew held snore-offs, competitive snoring battles, judged by volume, rhythm, and emotional impact. Pirates would lie back, puff out their chests, and snore with theatrical flair. One pirate, Groggy Greg, snored so dramatically he was mistaken for a foghorn and caused 3 ships to reroute. The reigning champion was Captain Yawnbeard, whose snore had a natural vibrato and once made a jellyfish dance. Parrot backup vocals. Parrots were the unofficial backup singers of the ship. They squawked harmonies, flapped in rhythm, and occasionally forgot the lyrics and shouted taxes instead. One parrot, Melodious Mike, had a talent for mimicking lullabies, though he often switched genres mid-song, turning a gentle tune into pirate opera. The sleepy choir of the 7 Seas. On special occasions, the crew formed a choir. They wore matching pajamas, striped with tiny anchors, held candles shaped like sea cucumbers, and sang lullabies in rounds. The result was a hauntingly beautiful mess of yawns, off-key notes, and one pirate who kept beat with a spoon and a coconut. The violin, made of driftwood legend, tells of a violin carved from driftwood and strung with mermaid hair. It was played only during the Nap Festival, a sacred event where pirates competed to fall asleep the fastest. The violin's lullaby was so powerful, it once knocked out a seagull mid-flight. The seagull landed in a hammock and stayed for 3 days. It was a quiet night aboard the drowsy Barnacle. The stars twinkled like sleepy fireflies. The sea hummed a lullaby, and the crew was just beginning to drift off when croak. Not a snore, not a parrot, not even a rat with indigestion. It was a deep, mysterious croak, echoing from the corner hammock in the captain's quarters. The haunted hammock. The hammock in question belonged to Groggy Greg, who swore he bought it from a traveling merchant in Tortuga, who claimed it was woven from enchanted kelp and frog whispers. Greg thought that sounded cozy. He was wrong. Every night, as soon as Greg lay down, the hammock began to croak, loudly, rhythmically, sometimes in harmony with the parrot. The crew tried to ignore it, but the croaking grew louder, more dramatic, and occasionally sarcastic. One pirate claimed the hammock croaked in Morse code. Another insisted it was trying to sing sea shanties. The parrot accused it of stealing his act. The croak investigation. Captain Yawnbeard assembled a team of sleepy investigators. Toothless Tina, who specialized in mysterious noises, Professor Whiskers, the monocled rat with a degree in hammocology, Sir Screechington, the parrot, uninvited but loud. They examined the hammock, sniffed it, poked it, and even tried singing lullabies to it. Nothing worked. The croaking continued. Tina declared it emotionally amphibious. Professor Whiskers squeaked 3 times and fainted. The pillow exorcist. Desperate for silence, the crew summoned Misty Myrtle, a retired pirate-turned-bedtime wizard. She arrived in a cloud of lavender mist, carrying a wand shaped like a spoon and a blanket embroidered with sleepy runes. Her diagnosis? This hammock is cursed by a frog who died mid-nap and refuses to move on. Her solution? A bedtime exorcism involving a lullaby sung backward, a mug of warm molasses offered to the spirit, a dramatic reading of the sleepy frog's final nap. The ritual was performed at midnight. The hammock croaked once, sighed, and then fell silent. Greg slept like a log. The crew cheered. The parrot demanded royalties. The aftermath. The hammock was renamed Croaky, given a tiny pillow, and treated with great respect. Occasionally, it still croaked, softly, usually when someone snored off-key or insulted amphibians. But it was no longer cursed, just opinionated. Greg claimed the croaking helped him sleep. He even recorded it and sold copies as Pirate White Noise. It became a hit in sleepy taverns across the Caribbean. As the moon floated like a sleepy marshmallow, and the stars twinkled like glitter spilled by a clumsy wizard, the snoring buccaneers encountered a new crewmate, one who didn't wield a sword or a spoon, but a wand carved from driftwood and a bedtime spellbook bound in seaweed. His name? Snorri the Sleepy Sorcerer. Snorri wasn't your typical pirate. He wore robes made of quilted blankets, carried a pillow staff, and spoke exclusively in yawns and ancient nap incantations. He joined the crew after floating aboard on a mattress during a foggy afternoon, mumbling something about dream portals and the sacred art of snoozery, the magic of napomancy. Snorri practiced napomancy, the mystical art of sleep magic. His spells included Slumberous, Maximus, instantly knocks out anyone within a 10-foot radius, useful during arguments and overly enthusiastic sea shanties. Blanketus Flotus, summons a flying blanket that gently wraps around the target and hums lullabies. Snorify, amplifies snoring to seismic levels, once used to scare off rival pirates who mistook it for a sea monster. He also had a potion called Dreamy Dew, brewed from moonlight, molasses, and the tears of yawning dolphins. One sip, and you'd nap like a baby kraken in a hammock. The Snoring Scrolls. Snorri kept a collection of enchanted scrolls known as the Snoring Codex. Each scroll contained bedtime wisdom, such as, never wake a pirate before noon unless the ship is on fire or breakfast is ready. A well-fluffed pillow is mightier than the sword. If your dreams involve jellyfish, reconsider your dinner choices. The scrolls glowed softly and occasionally giggled when read aloud. The Great Nap Ritual. Once a week, Snorri led the crew in a nap ritual. Pirates gathered in a circle, wore ceremonial pajamas, and chanted sleepy spells while sipping warm molasses. The ritual ended with a synchronized yawn, so powerful it once knocked over a barrel of parrots. Even Sir Cluckles the rooster participated, wearing a tiny wizard hat and crowing in Latin. Magical bedtime hygiene. Snorri insisted on magical hygiene. He enchanted soap to sing lullabies, made toothbrushes dance, and once summoned a bubble dragon to clean the deck. The dragon was polite, smelled like mint, and snored when idle. The dream portal incident. One night, Snorri accidentally opened a dream portal in the captain's quarters. Captain Yawnbeard fell through and spent 3 hours in a dimension made entirely of marshmallow clouds and talking teddy bears. He returned refreshed, slightly sticky, and convinced that pillows should be elected to public office as the moon shimmered like a sleepy pearl and the sea gently rocked the ship like a cradle made of kelp. The snoring buccaneers turned their attention to something truly important, bedtime fashion. Because if you're going to snore like a champion, you might as well look fabulous doing it. The pajama revolution. It all started when toothless Tina stitched a pair of pajamas out of fish scales. They shimmered, they squeaked, and they smelled faintly of sardines. The crew was stunned. Captain Yawnbeard declared it a bold statement in bedtime couture, and the pajama revolution began. Soon, every pirate was designing their own sleepwear. Barnacle Bill wore pajamas made of sea sponge, soft, squishy, and mildly absorbent. Groggy Greg fashioned a onesie from old sails, complete with a built-in pillow hood. Krusty Carl the cook slept in a robe made of biscuit wrappers. It crinkled with every toss and turn, attracting rats and compliments. The fashion showdown. To celebrate their newfound flair, the crew hosted the first annual Sleepy Fashion Show. The deck was transformed into a runway, lined with lanterns and molasses-scented candles. Pirates strutted in slow motion, because anything faster risked a nap, showing off their sleepy styles. Highlights included Captain Yawnbeard's majestic robe, stitched from parrot feathers and embroidered with tiny yawning moons. Sir Screechington the parrot, modeling a miniature pajama set with a matching nightcap. A rat named Sir Nibbles in a velvet tuxedo onesie, who received a standing ovation and a biscuit. The Pajama Design Guild. Inspired by the show, the crew formed the Pajama Design Guild, dedicated to advancing the art of sleepy fashion. They held workshops on snuggle stitching, debated the ethics of glitter in sleepwear, and once hosted a seminar titled Kelp, the Future of Cozy. The Guild's motto? Dress to decompress. The Sock Renaissance. The pajama craze reignited the crew's love for socks. Pirates began customizing them with tiny treasure maps, glow-in-the-dark stars, embroidered messages like, "Wake me never, and I nap, therefore I am." One pirate wore socks so fluffy they doubled as slippers, pillows, and emergency parrot nests. The fish pajama incident. Of course, not all fashion experiments succeeded. Squiddy Sid tried sleeping in a full-body fish costume. It was slippery, confusing, and caused a brief identity crisis when he was mistaken for dinner. He retired the outfit and now sleeps in a tasteful robe made of seaweed and regret. As the sea exhaled a gentle breeze and the stars blinked like sleepy lanterns, the snoring buccaneers found themselves unusually restless. Their hammocks swayed, their pillows fluffed, but sleep refused to arrive. Even Captain Yawnbeard, the undisputed champion of unconsciousness, was wide-eyed and whispering to his teddy kraken. That's when the turtle arrived. He wasn't fast. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't even particularly talkative. But he was calm. So calm that the waves slowed to match his vibe, and even the rats stopped arguing over biscuit crumbs. His name? Master Shellax, the meditating turtle of Tranquility Bay. The arrival of Shellax. Shellax floated aboard on a lily pad raft. wearing a tiny robe and sipping seaweed tea. He blinked once every 10 minutes and spoke in riddles like, "To find sleep, one must first lose the urge to chase it, breathe like a jellyfish, float like a biscuit. Snoring is the soul's applause." The crew was baffled. The parrot tried to mimic him and accidentally summoned a fog, but Shellax was patient. He taught them the ancient art of shellaxation, a pirate-friendly form of meditation involving deep breathing, hammock yoga, and imagining your worries as seagulls flying away with your laundry. The breathing technique: inhale the rum, exhale the cannonballs. Shellax's signature method involved breathing in slowly while imagining the scent of warm molasses, then exhaling with the force of a cannonball being gently launched into a pillow. The crew practiced daily, often falling asleep mid-breath and waking up refreshed, confused, and occasionally upside down. Hammock yoga and the nap. Pose Shellax introduced hammock yoga, which included poses like the floating biscuit, lie flat, arms out, imagine you're a snack, the sleepy kraken, curl into a ball and snore rhythmically, the parrot perch, balance on one leg while holding a pillow and questioning your life choices. Groggy Greg mastered all poses and was briefly mistaken for a decorative figurehead. Shellax's wisdom scrolls. Before leaving, Shellax gifted the crew a scroll titled The Way of the Nap. It contained bedtime mantras such as, "I am soft, I am sleepy, I am not responsible for cannon duty, my thoughts are bubbles, my dreams are biscuits, if I snore, I soar." The scroll was hung in the captain's quarters and read aloud each night by Professor Whiskers, the monocled rat, who added dramatic pauses and interpretive squeaks. The turtle's departure. Shellax eventually floated away on his lily pad, leaving behind a trail of calm and a basket of herbal sleep sachets. The crew waved, sniffed the sachets, and immediately fell asleep on deck in a synchronized nap so peaceful even the seagulls joined in as the stars yawned above the sea and the moon tucked itself behind a cloud like a bashful biscuit. The snoring buccaneers gathered for their nightly ritual, the bedtime beverage ceremony. It was a sacred tradition, a moment of calm, a chance to sip something soothing before diving headfirst into dreamland. But one night, the milk was cold, and thus began the warm milk mutiny, the beverage breakdown. Captain Yawnbeard had always insisted on warm milk before bed. "It soothes the soul and silences the snore," he'd say, sipping from his mug shaped like a sleepy walrus. The crew followed suit, enjoying their nightly mugs of molasses-laced milk, sometimes with a dash of cinnamon or a sprinkle of crushed biscuits. But on this fateful evening, Krusty Carl the cook had run out of firewood and served the milk cold. The crew gasped, toothless. Tina dropped her mug in shock. Groggy Greg wept into his teddy kraken. Even the rats refused to sip. The mutiny begins, led by Barnacle Bill. The crew stormed the galley, wearing pajamas and righteous indignation. They demanded warm milk, served in mugs pre-warmed by cuddly rats, optional marshmallows shaped like tiny anchors, a bedtime beverage menu with seasonal specials. Captain Yawnbeard, caught mid-nap, blinked twice and declared, "Let the mugs be warmed, or let the hammocks be empty." The crew cheered. The parrots squawked, "Extra marshmallows." The rats began knitting mug cozies. The great beverage upgrade. To prevent future mutinies, the crew installed a molasses-fueled beverage boiler, a contraption powered by sleepy steam and rat-pedaled gears. It produced dreamy dew, warm milk with hints of vanilla and sea mist, Snornog, a creamy blend of coconut and nap magic, Captain Ada's cocoa, rich chocolate with a dash of lavender, and a tiny biscuit on the rim. Each mug came with a bedtime fortune, such as, you will dream of cuddly krakens or avoid jellyfish in your subconscious. The marshmallow mandate. The crew voted unanimously to require marshmallows in all bedtime beverages. Shapes included tiny treasure chests, sleepy parrots, one controversial design, a snoring cannonball, which melted too fast and caused confusion. Professor Whiskers, the rat, was appointed marshmallow quality inspector. He took his job seriously and wore a monocle made of sugar. The beverage ballad. To commemorate the mutiny, the crew wrote a song. Warm milk in my mug, dream snug as a rug, marshmallows afloat, like a sleepy sea tug. Cold milk? No thanks. That's a pirate's bug. I'll sip till I snore, then nap like a slug. It was sung nightly, off-key, with mugs raised high, and rats clinking tiny thimbles, as the moon glowed like a sleepy lantern, and the sea whispered secrets in its softest voice. The snoring buccaneers dropped anchor near the dreamy shores of Nassau. They weren't searching for treasure this time. They were chasing a legend of a genie who didn't grant riches, fame, or eternal youth, but naps. Yes, naps. The nap genie of Nassau. According to bedtime folklore, deep within the sands of Nassau lay a bottle, not golden, not jeweled, but shaped like a pillow and sealed with a cork made from a snoring coconut. Inside lived Genie Snooze-a-Lot, the mythical nap genie, who granted only one wish, the perfect nap. He didn't do 3 wishes. He didn't do refunds. He didn't do anything before noon. The crew was intrigued. Captain Yawnbeard declared, if this genie exists, I shall wish for a nap so glorious it echoes through time. The crew packed their fluffiest socks, their cuddliest plushies, and a gift basket of molasses biscuits, just in case the genie was snack motivated. The bottle discovery. They found the bottle buried beneath a hammock-shaped sand dune. It was humming softly and smelled faintly of lavender and warm milk. Toothless Tina uncorked it, and out floated a cloud shaped like a yawning walrus. Then came the genie. He wore a robe made of dream dust, slippers shaped like jellyfish, and a sleep mask embroidered with the words, "Do not genie until after breakfast." He blinked slowly, stretched, and said, "Who dares disturb my slumber? And did you bring snacks?" The nap wish ceremony. Captain Yawnbeard stepped forward, cleared his throat, and said, "Oh, great Genie Snooze-a-Lot, I wish for the perfect nap." The genie nodded, snapped his fingers, and poof, a hammock appeared, floating mid-air, surrounded by glowing pillows, softly snoring parrots, and a lullaby played by invisible jellyfish. Yawnbeard climbed in, sighed deeply, and immediately began snoring in harmony with the waves. The crew gasped. Groggy Greg wept. Professor Whiskers squeaked in awe. Even Sir Cluckles the rooster bowed respectfully. Genie rules and nap ethics. The genie explained his rules. 1 nap per pirate per lifetime. No wishing for eternal sleep. That's just creepy. No waking the genie before his 3 p.m. siesta. He also offered nap consultations, dream polishing, and a subscription to the monthly Snore, a magical newsletter that arrives via floating pillow. The departure, after granting naps to the crew, each tailored to their deepest sleepy desires. Genie Snooze-a-Lot yawned, floated back into his bottle, and mumbled, "Wake me when the moon needs a nap." The crew tucked the bottle into a velvet pouch, placed it on a pillow pedestal in the captain's quarters, and vowed to never use it recklessly, except maybe during tax season. As the stars blinked like sleepy lanterns and the sea whispered lullabies to the moon, the snoring buccaneers encountered something truly unexpected. A dragon. Not the fire-breathing, treasure-hoarding, night-chomping kind. No, this dragon was tired, very tired, and he snored in Morse code. His name? Sir Napflame the Drowsy, guardian of the Pillow Peaks, and the only known creature whose snores could send messages across oceans. The arrival of Sir Napflame. The crew first spotted him, curled around a floating island made entirely of mattresses. He was enormous, covered in scales that shimmered like sleepy rainbows, and wore a nightcap embroidered with tiny yawning moons. He didn't roar, he didn't fly, he just snored, softly at first, then louder, then in distinct bursts that sounded suspiciously like SNOREISLIFE. Captain Yawnbeard, fluent in Morse code, thanks to a brief stint as a lighthouse keeper, translated the snores and declared, "This dragon is not a threat. He's a bedtime poet." The snore signals. Sir Napflame's snoring was so powerful, it interfered with nearby ship compasses, summoned sleepy dolphins, and once accidentally ordered 300 biscuits from a floating bakery. The crew built a snore translator, a device made of spoons, socks, and a parrot, with excellent rhythm. Messages included, "Nap now, plunder later, dreams are the real treasure, please fluff my tail pillow," the dragon's bedtime routine. Sir Napflame had a strict bedtime ritual, warm molasses bath, with bubbles shaped like anchors, a lullaby sung by jellyfish in minor key, a bedtime story read by a rat in a monocle, a mug of snorenog with marshmallows shaped like tiny ships. The crew was invited to join, provided they wore pajamas and didn't ask him to breathe fire. He only did that on weekends. The Snore Symphony. One magical night, the crew recorded Sir Napflame's snoring and turned it into a lullaby. It was played on conch shell trumpets, accompanied by parrot harmonies and rat percussion. The result? A snore symphony so soothing, it put an entire fleet of rival pirates to sleep mid-raid. They woke up, hugging their cannons and questioning their life choices. The dragon's gift. Before drifting off for his annual hibernation, Sir Napflame gifted the crew a magical pillow, stuffed with cloud fluff, stitched with dragon scales, and enchanted to whispers bedtime affirmations like, "You are brave, even in pajamas. Your snore is majestic. You deserve 8 hours and a biscuit." Captain Yawnbeard placed it in the ship's nap vault, guarded by rats in velvet slippers, as the moon stretched its sleepy glow across the sea, and the stars settled in for their nightly nap. The snoring buccaneers prepared for the most prestigious event in all of pirate bedtime history, the Great Pirate Sleep-Off. It wasn't about treasure. It wasn't about swordplay. It was about who could nap the longest, snore the loudest, and drool the most artistically. The rules of the sleep-off. Captain Yawnbeard, wearing his ceremonial pajama robe and crown made of socks, laid out the rules. No, waking up before noon. Snoring must be natural. No sound effects or parrots allowed. Drool must be contained within the hammock zone. Dreams involving biscuits earn bonus points. The crew nodded solemnly, fluffed their pillows, and prepared for battle. Of the bedtime variety. The competitors. Groggy Greg, known for snoring in 3-part harmony. Toothless Tina, who could nap through cannon fire and interpret dreams mid-snore. Barnacle Bill, whose sleep posture resembled a pretzel and once caused a hammock to file for retirement. Professor Whiskers, the monocled rat, entering as a wild card with his tiny velvet sleeping bag. Even Sir Cluckles, the rooster, joined in, wearing a sleep mask and refusing to crow until the winner was declared. The sleep begins. At the stroke of midnight, the pirates climbed into their hammocks. The ship fell silent. Only the gentle creak of ropes and the occasional dreamy mumble filled the air. Snoring erupted like a lullaby thunderstorm. Hammocks swayed. Rats curled up in sock nests. One parrot began sleep squawking the alphabet. The judges, 3 sleepy jellyfish, and a seagull named Judge Fluff floated nearby, scoring each pirate on snore rhythm, drool artistry, dream commentary, mumbled in sleep, pajama flare, the biscuit dream bonus, toothless. Tina mumbled, "The biscuits are dancing," and earned a standing ovation from the jellyfish. Barnacle Bill dreamed of a biscuit opera. Groggy Greg dreamed of being a biscuit. The judges were overwhelmed and briefly napped themselves. The winner, eventually, after 14 hours of uninterrupted snoozing, the crew slowly began to stir, except for Captain Yawnbeard, who was still snoring in perfect rhythm with the waves. He was declared the winner by unanimous jellyfish vote. The prize? A golden hammock lined with parrot feathers, a lifetime supply of molasses milk, and a crown made of marshmallows. Yawnbeard slept through the ceremony, the applause, and his own victory speech. The crew tucked him in, placed the crown gently on his head, and whispered, "Long nap the king." The night was quieter than usual aboard the drowsy Barnacle. The sea was still. The sails hung like sleepy curtains, and the stars above twinkled like tiny lullabies stitched into the sky. Even the moon seemed to whisper, "Shh." The snoring buccaneers had sailed through hammocks and hiccups, pillow fights and plushy parades, magical naps and marshmallow mutinies. They had snored with dragons, meditated with turtles, and sleepwalked into treasure. But tonight, they were ready for something more. They were ready for the final sleep. The Dream Dock captain, Yawnbeard, steered the ship toward a mysterious island known only in bedtime legends. The Dream Dock, it was said to be a place where pirates could rest forever. Not in a spooky way, but in a cozy, eternal nap kind of way. The island glowed softly, covered in clouds shaped like pillows, and trees that rustled like lullabies. The crew disembarked in their finest pajamas, carrying their plushies, their sleepy scrolls, and mugs of warm molasses. Even Sir Cluckles wore slippers. The rats rolled out tiny hammocks. The parrots sang a lullaby so gentle it made the stars blink slower. The nap ceremony, Captain Yawnbeard stood before the crew, his crown of marshmallows slightly askew, and spoke, "Me hearties, we've snored through storms, napped through nonsense, and dreamed beyond the horizon. Tonight, we rest, not just for a night, but for all the nights to come. May your hammocks be soft, your dreams be silly, and your snores be legendary." The crew cheered softly, so as not to wake the moon, then climbed into their hammocks one last time. The ship gently transformed into a floating cloud, drifting toward the stars, leaving behind only the sound of peaceful snoring and the faint scent of lavender biscuits. And so ends the tale of the snoring buccaneers, a crew of cuddly, cranky, and comically sleepy pirates who proved that the greatest treasure isn't gold or glory, it's a good nap. If you've made it this far, dear dreamer, you've sailed through 20 chapters of bedtime bliss. Your hammock awaits. Your pillow is fluffed. Your dreams are ready to be ridiculous. Now close your eyes, snuggle in tight, and remember, somewhere out there, a pirate is snoring in your honor. Good night.